Just getting one other element together so that we can go live. I hope everybody's having a great start to their Monday, and apologies for my tardiness today. I had to honor my word to myself and work out. Um, so I went on ahead and did that late this afternoon. Um, do one more thing here just to make sure I can see everybody. All right. And if you're joining me from any other platforms, make sure you let some other homies know that you are checking out this insightful information on your personal image. And we'll go ahead and get started. Remember that this is a conversation, not a lecture. And if you have any thoughts, any rebuttals, any other perspectives, then you can do that. No, I'm not super dressed today, and I want to make sure that a lot of times when I am on here, that I'm not trying to be like a fake version of myself. Today, like I said, I just finished working out, but I still wanted to make sure I hopped on. And as you know, that from how I've been saying stuff, like even today, like I don't know what's going on with my collar today. Uh, Players mess up too, right? Is that style is not so much just about you getting, on and presenting something that you're not really representing. The worst thing that you can do is present a false narrative or a false perception of who you claim to be. So today, I wanted to talk about something that I experienced today. So for anybody who's been rocking with me for a little while, you know that I'm out in the country. I'm no longer in the city, right? I'm no longer a city slicker. And so my family and I have created a garden here, and we've been working this garden for 6 months almost now. And so today we were looking at the garden, going through it as a family, and we noticed that there is a beautiful flower, one of our raised beds for non-gardening folk, and I didn't know this up until 6 months ago. A raised bed is, instead of you planting in the ground, you have like a higher wooden piece, and you put dirt all in there, and then you just put your soil in, and it's raised for like shrubs, green leafy vegetables, rooted vegetables. All those things are easier to grow typically in those spaces, from what I've been told. Gardeners, tell me if I'm wrong. But we were having a conversation, and there was this particular flower. I don't know what the name of the flower is. I thought it was a marigold, but that was extremely wrong. But it starts with the M. But it's a viney flower, and it will attach itself to a root and will then take the nutrients away from the root. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the root is not suffocated, it's not killed, but its abilities to grow are diminished, right? And my mother was like, I know that it looks pretty, but the it's not helping this plant grow and to create fruit, create its harvest. And I started thinking about that when it comes to our life as well as our style, right? And if you've been around with me for a little while, you know that we talk about more than just clothing. We talk about your life and style and what that actually means for your personal presentation and your personal development. So if you have any questions, again, by all means, leave them here. But I started to think about like how many times, and I'm asking you this, how many times have you gone to a store and maybe you've gotten some piece, some article that you're like, yo, this is dope, right? And if you're not going to look for a while, there's a process. You got to ask yourself, do I love it or do I like it? How many ways can I wear it? And then where does this fit into my wardrobe? And if you haven't, maybe you've done this on accident. You've gone in and you've found something that you love, but you're not purchasing um, something that you can wear a lot of ways and that also fits into your wardrobe. And so now this wonderful, dope, beautiful piece is sitting in your wardrobe with no place to for you to wear it. And what often ends up happening is I hear from a lot of guys when I'm working with them is they say, like, man, like I got this dope piece. And I'm like, dope, like, what is it? They tell me what it is, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a look. And they're like, the problem is I don't know where to wear it. There's no place for me to wear this item. And this goes back to what we talked about last week and understanding your settings and the scenes and scenarios. And sometimes you have to elevate those spaces because birds of a feather flock together. But they're like, I have no place to wear it. And then I start to ask them, well, what is the rest of your style look like? And they start to realize that the beautiful ones, right, that one that they think is beautiful and is dope, really not fit into their wardrobe. It doesn't fit into their life or their style, how they want to move and what they want to represent. Now, the interesting thing that we'll talk about in a few is that doesn't mean that you can't find something that does, right? And I started thinking about this when it came to like even being in relationships. I've been blessed enough to meet some incredibly wonderful young ladies, some beautiful young ladies. I didn't have the horror stories, nor did I have the desire to indulge in like big booty Judies. And I always refer to the hood chicks as the big booty Judies. I never had any desire for the 304s. I never had any desire for like the quote unquote crazy chicks who are, overly sexual or any of those types of things. I never had that desire. I always wanted qualitative experiences and qualitative women. And I met beautiful young ladies who were qualitative, intelligent, well spoken, demure, still had loads of sex appeal, but it was incorporated with sophistication. And what I found a lot of times for myself was they were beautiful, they were awesome, but they weren't representative of my life. I remember I was dating an ex like about 10 years ago, and right before we were breaking up, I was like, listen, you're an amazing girlfriend. You don't know how to be my girlfriend. And she was like, what does that mean? And I said, well, you do all of the girlfriend shit. You follow all of the girlfriend rules. You're doing everything that the girlfriend is supposed to do. But when it comes down to you being my girlfriend, Michael Andrews' girlfriend, and understanding what I need in order to be the best version of myself, you talk a good game, but you don't follow up. That you're not following through with the woman that you say that you are. And I'll give you an example. For about 10 years, and sorry guys, I told you I've been working out. Um, I was doing about 10 years ago, I was doing podcasting before podcasting was even popular. And I had this podcast, and she claimed to be a supporter. Now, I told her very early on, like, yo, you don't have to listen to this, it's fine. There's certain things that we talk about as far as relationships. And I wanted to make sure that you were cool with, but you don't have to listen to it. And she was like, no, no, babe, like I'm listening, like I'm a supporter. First time, she didn't listen to it. Second time, she didn't listen to it. By the third time, I was like, listen, it's over. Don't listen to it. Right? Because you claim that you are supporting me, but the best way to support me in a situation is to be honest and say, like, listen, this doesn't appeal to me, it's not interesting to me, so I'm not with it. And so shortly thereafter we broke up because of other reasons, in addition to the fact that she just was not going to work well with me. But she was a beautiful young lady. She's married now. She has a beautiful family, and I'm very happy for her. Right. And even when she got married, she's been married about 5 years. I was happy when she got married, even though it wasn't with me, because I knew that even though she was beautiful, she didn't fit into my life. And so, for a lot of guys in life as well as in style, we find ourselves getting with young ladies, dealing with women, getting pieces for an ensemble because it looks good. And it may even look good and be good on paper, right? But not serving us and is not helping us build our personal style or our personal presentation. The reason why I love, one of the reasons why I love my wife, many reasons why, is because not only is she an partner internally, she's also a person who is a look for me stylistically, right? When we stepped out, went to a wedding, and my wife is a fitness instructor, so she's not in a where she can dress up a lot, right? She's still very comfortable her without being overtly extra, because you know what I mean. Um, but we went out to a wedding and we took some pictures and she posted them on our social media, and like 4 or 5 young ladies was like, "Oh my god, like you could be a model." And she was like, "Well, yeah, I was a model. I was in Essence. I think she was in Italian Vogue. She's been in quite a few other different elements." And she's a great look for me, being the stylish individual that I am, the way that I want to show up, what I want to represent. And so there is balance in that space. And not only is she beautiful, but she is somebody who fits me. And so there's three things again, the consciousness, construction, and the communication that we're going to talk about when it comes to you developing an awareness of the beautiful ones, right? That you always seem to lose because they don't fit into your life, and how to cultivate that in order to build your personal expression in your life as well as your style. So the first thing that you want to pay attention to when you are thinking about the beautiful ones, and again, sorry guys, I don't want to, I might be out here preaching. Send your tithes in. Uh, but one of the first things that you should be thinking about with the beautiful ones when it comes to your life as well as your style is, what does this say about me? Right? A lot of guys don't even think about from the life standpoint. They don't think about the type of woman that they're getting into a relationship with. They said, take your time. Uh, that they're getting into a relationship with, right? They don't think about the history of that young lady, that co-character that's going to be in your story. You don't think about where she comes from. And a lot of guys are just saying this because they're thinking, oh, this is going to be for a good time, right? I'm not looking for Mrs. Right. I'm looking for Mrs. Right now. And that's all well and good. You just never know what may happen, right? Situation could get so good that you find yourself locked in for a sec, even though you don't really want to deal with that young lady outside of the bedroom, but now you find yourself locked in that space, right? So you want to think broader picture, especially if you're a grown ass man. Like if you're over the age of 30, 31, like you should be thinking macro just as much as you're thinking micro. As much as you're thinking about this isolated incident, you should be thinking about long-term consequences. Your frontal cortex is fully developed enough for you to foreshadow and think about things in that regard. And so when you're involved in these situations, I want you to think about, where does this lady fit into my life? Even if it's just physical, even if it's just going to be a physical encounter, where does this fit into my life? Is she worth the late night drive over to her house to experience her and then have to drive back? When I was young, I would drive sometimes like 35 miles. There was a chick that lived where we live now, and she was about 40 45 minutes away from where I live. And I would drive out to see her just to try to engage on that level. Never did. Tried to though, right? At 30, if that conversation would have come up, I would have been like, nah, I'm cool. I'm cool. There were a few chicks in my late 30s before I met my wife where I would be like, chicks would be like, "You not trying to come over? You're not trying to deal?" Nah, sleep is undefeated. And I learned that from an OG. He was like, yo, sleep is always undefeated, right? Because you start thinking about the cost benefit analysis. In our minds, the fantastical element is, we're going to get over there. It's going to be this beautiful situation, and all these other things are going to happen, and she's going to want to satisfy you. And this, that, and the third. This is the sequence of events that are going to happen, only to get over there after driving 45 minutes. It was only supposed to take 15 minutes, but it was a wreck on your route there. And then you get over there, she is not on some sexy stuff. She's on some, like, what we doing, like, let's get to it type joint. Didn't get you anything to drink, didn't offer you anything to drink, didn't ask you about how your day is, why she's kissing on you, or any of those different types of things. No, she just like, she wants some wham bam, thank you, ma'am. And then you finish, right? Let's keep it real. most of y'all guys ain't going 45, 50 minutes, 2 hours, in the love making session. I know I wasn't. I'm not going to even front with y'all. Like, I'm not going to even be that guy, right? 20, a strong 25, 30 minutes. Not even necessarily because I was incapable. It was just like, why am I going to spend all this extra time doing these things? And then you want to go to sleep, right? It's 1 o'clock in the morning at this point. You're tired, horny, but you're tired, and you're ready to go to sleep. And then she don't even want you to stay there. So then you got to drive another 30 minutes to 45 minutes back home to get in your bed. Like, I'm like, nah, sleep is undefeated, bro. Now, if you want to make a trip over here and I want to stay up for that 30 minutes that may take for you to be over here, so be it. Zelko said, any tips on how to do that? Tips on how to do what? And I'll and I'll happily answer. So, in that same regard, when it came to my personal style, there were several times where I'm still guilty of this at times, where I would go to a store. I may be purchasing something online, and I'm like, oh, this gonna be dope. I'm gonna wear this with this. I'm gonna wear this with this. It's gonna be a dope look. I'm gonna throw it on for this occasion. I'm gonna do this for this occasion, and the piece comes in, and I may be unfamiliar with the brand or the styling of, for instance, a shoe, and I get the shoe, and it's uncomfortable to wear. It's a beautiful shoe, but I can only really be in it for 3 hours. Or I get a pair of trousers, and the trousers are beautiful, but they're flannel, and I don't realize how delicate the flannel make is, and um, I'll get to you in a second, Zeb. I'll get to you in a second. Um, or you'll find yourself in a piece that is too delicate for you to wear. This is another quick story. I had the opportunity to work for the Xenia Group. So if you know about Ermenegildo, that's how you say it, the first name, Ermenegildo, Xenia, I had a chance to work for their corporate office. And right before I had gotten that job, I had gotten a Rake magazine as one of their first issues, and they had this beautiful double-breasted burgundy suit, and I was like, "Oh, this joint is hard. I gotta get it." Looked in the magazine; it was like $3,000, which was actually a very for sample piece, and they would have sample sales when we first started. So I got to go to a warehouse in Jersey and look for samples. First thing that I went after was that suit. It was $200. That's how much the sample was. And then they had another suit that was similar to it for $200. And I actually shot both of those in the I Am Dandy book. So if you have the I Am Dandy book, both of those examples are in there. And I remember like, oh man, I'm gonna kill him in this, that, and the third. I'm throwing it on. I'm like, I'm gonna be wearing this all the time. Only to find out that as beautiful as it was, it could only be worn one to two times per year. Cashmere, unless it is a suited cashmere, is incapable of holding its shape, especially when it comes to pants. So they have suiting cashmere that's usually double twisted, is going to be much more stronger, resilient, and will hold its shape much longer, but it's still more like a Super 200, Super 180s fabric that is still going to have some delicateness or essence to it when you're wearing it. So you have to be mindful with that. But with cashmere, if you bend the knee and you're wearing a cashmere pant, it can start to droop the knees, and it can mess up the shape of the pant. So it doesn't keep a crease as long. It just doesn't look as good over the wear. And so I was like, damn, man. Like, now in real life, I only spent $200. I'm like, this is a very expensive suit that doesn't even hold its shape. Well, it wasn't the suit's fault. It was that I needed a workhorse type of suit, because this was one of my first suits when I got to New York. I needed a workhorse type of suit, and I invested in something that looked beautiful but did not fit into my life or where I was in that chapter. Zev, one of my Instagram folks had a good question, had an interesting question, and that was how to shoot for 2 hours of a sensual experience, or hell even take 25 minutes. One of the things that guys don't pay attention to, and this is a sidebar, so if you leave, you come back in about 5-10 minutes, and we'll be back on track. But it's kind of similar. Is guys equate a sexual encounter to the minute penetration happens. Women equate sexual encounters generally to when, as early as when kissing starts. So the minute that you guys are making out or foreplay is happening, you have entered into sex as far as they're concerned. They are counting that time period, not just the time period of insertion. And the reason why they're accounting for that is there's so many other ways for them to have a climax, right? I don't know what's going to happen on these social media platforms, so I don't want to say a whole lot of terms, right? But when they are finding themselves arriving, right? When they do that, then there is maybe 10 to 15 minutes that may have passed. What guys also don't know is it takes a woman about 10 to 15 minutes to put herself in a state of arousal where she is able to climax. So a lot of guys will bypass a lot of the foreplay elements to get to insertion when one, her body's not ready. Two, that is minimizing the actual type of pleasure that she can have. And it also minimizes your opportunity to have reciprocation. So, for instance, if you spend, let's say, 10 minutes kissing with a young lady or kissing on a young lady, so it's not just kissing her for 10 minutes unless you're into that, right? And maybe kissing her lips for 2 to 3 minutes, and then kissing her neck, kissing on her collarbone, you know that foreplay is happening. So descending throughout her body, right? Paying attention to her body when she is experiencing the pleasure, right? Well, then now you've initiated the sexual context and content. So she's counting like, okay, we about to get it on, and it this is the process of the encounter. Then, if you move to foreplay, whether that's oral or digital, right? And I'm not talking digital, then you have the opportunity to create a climax, right? And if you pay attention to that, 9 times out of 10, not well, maybe not 9 times, maybe 7 out of 10 times, the young lady wants to reciprocate because she doesn't want to get off without getting you off in that space, especially if this is a significant other. She wants to make sure that you are pleasured within that experience. From there, she will generally then tell you like, I want you, like, give it to me, whatever her words of affirmation are in that space, right? So she'll do that first, and then you know that she is ready for penetration. Once you get to that space of penetration, what a lot of guys do is they pay attention to friction. They're not paying attention to sensation, whereas a lot of women, not all, but a lot, are paying to sensations and not the friction per se. They like the balance of friction, and uh, the sensation of kissing bodies, the pulsating of organs, all those other different types of things. Zeb Cola says, sounds like you're changing the definition. I've been married 16 years, 4 kids, and I know that definition. Thought you meant 2 hours of riding the pony. Bruh, you can do 2 hours of riding the pony. If I no, I ain't no. No. Zeb, I ain't got 2 hours, bro. I don't have two. My wife will tell you she don't got 2 hours. We don't have 2 hours to be like going that hard, bro. So I couldn't tell you how to do that. I can tell you how to have 2 hours of sensual intimacy. But if you want to ride that pony, I mean, take a blue chew, take a blue pill, um, do some heavy stretching, hydrate, potassium. You don't want to catch no cramps anywhere. That's all I got. You might have some game for me, Sam. I don't 16 years. You might have some game for me, bro. I have nothing for you on that side. Uh, Well, shout outs to you. 16 years, 4 kids. You're obviously doing something right. And House Patrick said 8% of men don't know or even have the mental understanding that foreplay is a part of the experience. Yeah, and I've just had the experience when I've done intimacy coaching, um, that a lot of guys don't know those things. So it's paying attention to understanding that. And honestly, Zev, if you have or if you haven't, then it's the opportunity to really re-examine, re-explore, re-understand, or understand your partner when you're doing these things, right? Because it gives you the opportunity to experience one another. Zev said, okay, I don't have 2 hours in my schedule. That's why I haven't done that. That's my reason. Scheduling. I'll take it. I'll take it. House of Passion said, that's all cap. No one's going 2 hours strictly riding the pony. I mean, listen, I'm not in anybody's bedroom, so we're not gonna stay on that too long. I just am saying there's a different element. And here's how this all ties into to one another. On this side, um, the average guy may not be, right? So you can find a beautiful young lady who can only a lady who can only handle 20 minutes, 30 minutes. This is a good conversation for you to have with your partners if you have an extremely high sex drive. Maybe you can go 6, 7 times in a day, and your partner may be like, yo, I got a strong 2 times in a day that I'll work with you on, excuse me, that I'll work with you when it comes to us dealing with one another, right? You need to understand that. And it may not be the woman who's saying she can't keep up. That may be one of the fellas. So it's understanding the beautiful ones may not always be the ones that you need to stick with. There's also a great movie if you've ever watched it, Carmen. You can watch the original, or you can watch the one with Dorothy Dandridge and Harry Belafonte. It's a musical, but it's dope, because it talks about how the beautiful ones can also destroy you, right? Because they don't fit your life. So, forgot what Harry Belafonte's character is, but he is in the army. He's a high-ranking official, and he is with this beautiful young lady. Great for him. She fits his life. She fits how he needs to move. She fits the functionality of his life, and he's then seduced by Carmen. Right, Carmen is this beautiful, breathtaking young lady played by Dorothy Dandridge. She's able to swoon the entire military branch when she comes in to a local saloon, and he's smitten by her. But he's like, "Yo, I got a girl, and I'm cool, so I'm gonna stick with her." But she seduces him, and it ends up driving him to madness. Now well, you can watch the movie, but it doesn't end well for him, right? And in a much more superficial way, you can have situations where you're dealing with a item, with a piece, and you need it to work well for you in a given situation, and it destroys that opportunity. And I always like to tell my clients, like, suffer superficially. Nothing wrong with suffering superficially, as long as it's not like a absolutely positively I need to look my best, and for whatever reason it slipped my schedule, something got damaged, what have you. If you're going to a wedding and you're not invited, you're a plus one, um, and it's your wife's friend or it's your lady's friend, and they'll see you again, and you don't have the best tie, or your shirt is not the best, right? You can throw that on because you waited to the last minute and you can't go get another one. Suffer superficially. Understanding that if you go buy something and you need it to work for you, what will often happen is it's going to destroy the opportunity, because what's gonna generally happen is you're gonna put on the garment, you're gonna put on that piece, and because you have not broken it in, because it doesn't represent you in its totality, you haven't thought about how it needs to work with the rest of your wardrobe. You're gonna keep on adjusting, like, not sure of yourself, not sure of what it is that you want to project, because you haven't had the opportunity to fit it into your look, but also to really assess where that fits for your style. House Patrick said, as far as your wardrobe, one should spend time actually getting to know your gear. That way you won't make wasted purchases. I guess I'm trying to say date your wardrobe. Yeah, 100%. Great. Date your wardrobe. I like that. I like that, House of Patrick. If I ever steal that, I'm going to give you credit. My man House Patrick said you should date your wardrobe because I like that concept. But yes, in a sense, you want to shop your closet, date your wardrobe, and also date your wardrobe. You should be able to say, like, I've had these pieces for a time. I've worked through different elements for a time. I understand how this fabric works with these other pieces. So I understand how this jacket fabric is going to work with this shirt fabric so that if I need to breathe and be cool, I can wear these pieces. If I need to be insulated and warm, I can wear these pieces. If I need to look cool while staying comfortable, I know which pieces that I can put together to create a comfortably elegant ensemble, right? So you do need to date your wardrobe, but you also need to date the timeline or the chronology of when you're getting things, because that will also determine when you need to update, when you need to refine, replace those pieces that you have, and then date it. Get familiar with it. Understand how things work together, how you can play with different items, colors, patterns, and textures so that they express the very best of who you are, right? And then lastly, if you're able to do that, then you can start thinking about the communication that is the most beautiful for you, right? Fellas don't like to be beautiful. I get that, right? Fellas don't want to be beautiful. If my wife, were to tell me like, "Oh, Michael, you're so beautiful," I'd be like, "Man, I'm handsome. I'm handsome," right? Or if I'm talking to our nephew uh doesn't want to be a beautiful person. He wants to be a charming, suave, cool individual, right? We don't really deal in the aesthetics of beauty. We don't. We like to have other adjectives, other descriptors for our life. And so for us, if a young lady were to call us beautiful, that's not the look that we're going for, right? We want to go to a space of sophistication, of prominence, of power, of uh, of regalness, of nobility. Any one of these different descriptors are going to be something that is going to be more associative with who we are and what we want to represent. And so it's important for us to then also not lose the masculinity that comes even through sensuality, through the leadership or the prominence of what we're putting on, and even for the structure and the armament that we're putting on, right? There still needs to have a certain level. There still needs to be a certain level of masculinity. The last thing that I'll speak on is a lot of guys are finding themselves being quote unquote beautiful and not masculine, right? These are a lot of the guys that you're seeing that are overly feminine, even though they claim to be the heartthrobs, or a lot of ladies are saying that they like these guys, right? And there was a time when you looked at somebody like Rudolph Valentino, or you could look at even John F. Kennedy. If you ever read The Art of Seduction, was seen as a more effeminate man, and so he always wanted to look more masculine. That's why he would get into fights when he was younger. There's all these other things. If you ever read The Art of Seduction, it's a great book on some different stories about the seductive process. But John F. Kennedy, in his mannerisms, was seen as more effeminate, more so than his dress. But you could look at somebody like Prince at the time. You could look at somebody like Michael Jackson, Dennis Rodman in the '90s. If you want to just have a more or more recent touch point or reference, these guys were doing things that were like extra, right? While everybody else was focused on the masculinity. Now everybody's moved towards the femininity of the look. It's all about the personal expression without any structural order or perspective that is defined, that's definitive. Everybody wants to be lofty and just kind of like, well, however you want to interpret it is fine, right? There's no structure in the global zeitgeist right now. And so for you, this is the opportunity to express the nobility, the order, and the structure that comes with masculinity in a very seductive way that allows you to no longer be beautiful, but to be all those other elements, debonair, to be suave, right? To be distinguished, to be prominent, to be handsome, right? To have all those other elements that are associated with the aesthetics of beauty while not having to be confined to such a lofty, dreamy type of perspective. Because that's what every guy wants. Every guy wants to be revered and admired, both physically as well as mentally, for his prominence and for his ability, his proficiency in whatever field he's in. And you can do these things in very subtle ways. So, for instance, as I've been telling you guys, pay attention to your industry. You don't want to be overly dressed because that, to a certain degree, is a feminine trait. The guy who works in a space with t-shirts and jeans and flip-flops, and he walks in a three-piece suit with a spread collar shirt and a beautiful foulard tie, right? Beautiful Bouchette pocket square, right? Bouchette is pocket square, just so you know, right? And some shiny whole cut lace ups, it's inappropriate. Like, you're trying to get attention. That's what a woman would do. She would come in with, a form-fitting dress. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything that's overly exposed, but it's still exposing her figure to try to get attention. When you could walk into that same establishment with a long sleeve polo that fits you well, a silk knit polo, right? Has a little bit of sheen. Gives you some elevation. Instead of throwing on jeans, you're throwing on chinos or seasonal trousers. So you have a cotton gabardine trouser on flat front, or with one forward facing pleat, and then a great pair of loafers that have a bubblegum rubber bottom, right? In that overly casual space, you've elevated the space without drawing too much attention to yourself outside of, damn, you look nice. Throwing on a great um, Cayman belt, ostrich belt, ostrich leg, python type of belt that adds some flair to the overall look. If you're in a space that is a little bit more formal, right? You're working in the bank, you're working in finance in New York, and you want to throw on a tie, or you want to throw on a very nice suit without the tie, right? Then those things are a little bit more appropriate. So it's about paying attention to the uh, what House of Patrick is saying, having class, right? But class, ceremony, and then celebration, and paying attention to how those things need to appear in a different situation. House of Patrick said having class in this day and age is somewhat looked down upon when it comes to style, because it sees men's wear labels, follow trends, and those are the ones that are expected. Those are the ones that are expected, even if it doesn't fit them well. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, we've had conversations over and over about labels and how a brand will brand you if you're not careful. But on a deeper side, yeah, like, people have forgotten what class and order and reverence looks like, and that's part of masculinity, right? As a warrior, you understand reverence and stepping into several different spaces. You can't just throw on. Oh, that's what's expected. Okay, gotcha. Um, can't just step into a space looking any type of way if you want to show reverence and to really appreciate how you are, how you're showing up, right? You want to pay attention to those things because you want to respect those. So ultimately, the beautiful ones you may lose, right? Not necessarily with Prince, you don't always seem to lose, right? But you got to ask yourself at the end of the day, what's it going to be? Am I going to just get the beautiful ones that I'm going to lose because they don't fit my life? They don't fit my movements, how I want to show up. And if we're being honest, I don't even really want that. Like, the other stuff that I want should have a ease to it. It should have a different level of connection to it, so that I can ultimately communicate those much more profound, nuanced elements of who I am to the world, right? So if you guys ain't seen Purple Rain, because some of you guys are gonna be like, "What is he talking about? The beautiful ones always seem to lose." Go watch Purple Rain. You know what I'm saying? Get you some Apollonia in the '80s. She still don't. She looks alright, but she don't look as good as she used to look. In that space, no shade to Apollonia, beautiful young lady, a beautiful lady. She's not so young anymore, but beautiful lady. Um, but go watch you some Purple Rain. Fun. It's a fun movie. Great, not great storyline, but a fun storyline. And what's my man's name? Why is his name escaping me? There's some funny lines from Jungle Love. Somebody gonna remember that. And and a different way that fellas were treating women in the '80s, apparently. So go check that out. But remember that the beautiful ones are not always going to be the ones that you lose, but sometimes they will be, and sometimes that's necessary to show the best version of yourself. Morris Day, thank you, Macy Miller. I just said knew somebody was gonna come up with who I was thinking about, Morris Day, and go listen to Jungle Love too because it was a fun song. Uh, but outside of that, does anybody else have any questions? Thank you for the engagement today on the social media platforms. Continue the engagement. This is a discussion. This is a conversation. It's not necessarily a lecture. I always just have something that we can talk about. And having that experience in the garden today just was a good concept to talk about. I would love to hear your thoughts on whether or not you think it would be beneficial for me to send out questionnaires, send the topic of the day each week so that you guys have the opportunity to think through like some stuff that you may want to talk about, some questions that you may want to have, some rebuttals, things of that nature. Let me know if that's something that you would be interested in so that I can make sure that I start doing that more. House Patrick said, I'd rather lose and wait until something or someone that fits me well. Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, you don't ever necessarily, I know Prince said you lose it, but like you don't really ever lose it. It's funny, like a lot of times the young ladies that I thought that I was quote unquote losing, and a I would always have this feeling, whether it was God energy, ancestors, whoever you want to call it, that would say that's not it. Like she has elements of the person that you want, but that's not it. And when I met my wife, it was like, oh, that's it. Oh, that's what that was supposed to look like. And so I realized that I was never losing anything. I was just garnering a understanding, a little bit more of an understanding of the type of person that I was supposed to be with. And interestingly enough, and this may be a little bit of my mind playing tricks on me, but she actually embodies like somebody that I dreamt about like when I was like 19. And I was like, oh, like this is almost the type of young lady that I dreamt about. And so you may lose to learn, right? But you're never really losing if you're learning. So you may lose some aspect, or that people may think that you're losing, but you're really learning and you're growing in that process. So I appreciate that thought process, House Patrick. Taylor Mon said, "Great discussion as always, bro. Thank you." House Patrick said, as my man says all the time on Sorry Chicks, try the song. See how it fits you. Uh, That's all right. I got what you. I was picking up what you were putting down. Um. So yeah, outside like let me know, guys. Send me a DM. Send me a comment on any of my posts, and let me know if you would like for me to put these things on, uh, like a story. I'll also start trying to add these to the reel, just so you guys can have the conversation before we do our Monday conversation. Now it'll probably be like on Monday morning, so don't think it's gonna be like on Saturday. It'll probably be Monday morning. But we'll have that. Outside of that, be great today. I always appreciate and enjoy conversing. I was gonna say conversating. That's not a word. Conversing with you, or now conversating is in the dictionary, and shame. Conversing with you. Uh, and continuing to help you develop and cultivate your personal style and your personal presentation. That's ultimately what it's all about, is showing up as the best version of yourself so that you are making a statement in style, remembering that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of mind. So you, yes, you should always dress to address your life and your style so that you're always telling your story. Added that at the end. And I will see you guys on Wednesday if you want to join the Ms. War Mastermind. We're going to continue to have some great style conversation and some manhood conversations. And if not, I will see you guys next week. All right. Peace.